Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Special edition today, on location here at Belmont Watches in San Diego.
But Anthony Reinerson with Belmont Watches.
Some of you guys might know Anthony from just conversing with him either on social or sending an email into the website. As you guys know, I have actually purchased from Belmont Watches personally before. I purchased this one as well as that 5KX GMT, which is really great. We can do definitely a follow-up segment on that. But it's cool to be here, kind of in the office, on location. I know for a while it was just kind of by appointment only, but I think now it's more of a space that's going to kind of have cool stuff always. So I think that's pretty cool, and it obviously has a great location, which we'll definitely get some footage of kind of the outside and everything like that too, which you guys will catch either in the pre-credits or the post-credits, so we'll see. But why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what you have on the table today for us?
Yeah, so brought out a bunch of different types of things, a little vintage, modern. So you got a really cool 45th anniversary Speedmaster. Yeah, right here. So black PVD dial, has the 18 karat gold bezel, titanium case. It's the 45th anniversary from Omega Apollo. So that's a super cool one. They only made, I think, 1,669 of them.
Oh wow!
Going with Apollo, obviously. So yeah, that's a really cool one. I like it because it's definitely different than most limited editions that they tend to do.
What's the material on this?
Yeah, so case titanium.
Oh, sweet.
And bezel is the 18 karat Sedna gold, I think they call it.
Yeah. I think Sedna gold.
Sedna, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically kind of like their own proprietary rose gold.
Yeah. So that's that.
That is cool. Yeah, no, that titanium finish, like, it really shows. And that's one of the nice things I think that is cool about titanium, is it isn't quite as bright as stainless steel. So when you do see really high grade of finishing on titanium, I feel like it just kind of jumps out a little bit more. Like the satinization on here is really it's just sharp. It just stands out a lot, which
it looks really good.
Is very, very cool. Yeah, this is a nice one.
Like, their limited editions kind of vary, and they're usually kind of the same, but this one I feel like is very different, so that's why I really like that one. Of course, we got one of the SPB 297s, one of the Seikos, Heritage Seamaster 300, a really cool SBGX 039, I think it is, for a Grand Seiko. Has a really cool graph dial, so that's a really cool one. If we're coming into the vintage, got a Heuer, vintage Heuer, really nice condition, just serviced. So that's another one of the cool ones. And this new old stock Volcan 1376 has a surfboard dial, which is really cool. So you don't see a lot of these. Has the box with all the little hang tags, so that's really cool to find that one.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's some of them.
Cool. So I was just thinking, quick watch meet etiquette thing is take off your ring before you handle other people's watches, especially if you were like me and you wear like a tungsten ring, which will absolutely scratch everything. If you're wearing like a soft white gold ring, probably not a big deal. But if you wear a ring like this, carbon fiber or something like that, where it's extra tough, even titanium rings, definitely think about taking it off so that you're not handling everybody's stuff and possibly putting scratches on it. So let's just kind of go around the table. Actually, one thing I did want to touch on is you mentioned servicing. So recently serviced, is that something that you offer for just watches that you purchase that you resell, or do you offer those services also to local folks?
So we also provide the servicing for local folks. It's usually, we're in the jewelry exchange building, so somebody in the building will be doing it. Depends on the watch and specialties with people. For instance, Omega and Rolex, we get a 2-year warranty whenever you service with us. So that's a really cool perk because of how up in the servicing world they are and what certificates they have. But we do a lot of people's grandpa's old Rolex, their Heuer, and we like to get those done and then dial in like how they would like it done. Sometimes they like to refinish them, sometimes they don't. We have some really good people that do polishing, so that's always an option. That's gold, white gold, even titanium. They do really well with titanium, surprisingly, so that's always an option also.
Sweet. I know that's pretty tough to find, especially when it comes to refinishing titanium.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places where that's like the one thing that they won't do.
Yeah.
So to find that locally is definitely really, really cool. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a closer look at some of these pieces. And let's talk about this awesome little quartz here. I feel like, especially with Grand Seiko, the quartz market has really started to become pretty mainstream, which I think is great because for the price, you're getting, outrageous levels of fit and finish, whether it be on the bracelet, on the watch case, of course, down to the hands and the dial. But, it still has this cool kind of funky, like, acceptance within watch collecting, which I think is pretty nice. What's your kind of take on Grand Seiko, and what drew you to picking up this piece in specific?
So that's older model in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was honestly the dial. I'd never seen that dial. It popped up and you're like, wow, this.
It's got that graph paper. Yeah. It's really cool. It's like, it's retro. And the funny thing is, I'm sure when they first came out with it, it wasn't really meant to be, but you look at this, honestly, like it totally does give me kind of 90s vibes, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the cooler Grand Seikos from the late 90s.
Yeah, and definitely under the radar for sure, because you're right, I haven't seen this either. I've definitely seen some cool kind of vintage Casios, re-editions and whatnot that have that kind of graph paper dial, but it's really cool to see it in an absolutely like premium luxury level. What is this selling for on your site?
The high 2000s, like 2700-ish.
Oh, nice. That's super attainable, especially when you're thinking about something like this. And the nice thing is, it does have the dual branding, which shows that, hey, yeah, this is from an era before Grand Seiko was really loved by all of the watch hipsters out there. This was really more of a collector's piece. So I think that definitely adds a little bit in terms of the collectability and the wearability. When you have it on your wrist, you really are kind of representing what the brand was about before a lot of the marketing geniuses kind of jumped on board.
Definitely.
Cool. Let's take a look at this. I feel like this is definitely an under-loved and underappreciated piece, because I just feel like it just kind of, it was released at a time when there was just, there still is a wide array of different types of Seamasters.
A lot of them.
But then you start thinking about the more, kind of the movie style stuff. This one kind of takes the best of the looks that were kind of refreshed for the Bond films, and then also making it just an awesome kind of everyday piece. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the Heritage Seamaster 300, this is the non-limited edition.
Nice.
But it is, I think it's discontinued, I'm pretty sure. It has a comfortable bracelet. The buckle is very nice. It's nice and thin. I know Omega kind of beefed up all of that kind of stuff, and that was kind of not a sad thing that they did. So I like the more tapered bracelet on that one, and the rotating bezel. It keeps that in old time 1957s, what it's really going back to, and the recessed indices and the numbers within the dial is also a really nice touch that they did with it.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely hit all those hallmarks. And it's funny because you have like micro brands, let's say like Baltic, that like I feel kind of made a lot of this stuff like cool again in terms of like the within the collector market. And then it's nice to see kind of one of the daddies of of the Swatch group really put out something just super high quality, high level of finish, guys. This type of hairline brushing, you just don't find it anywhere outside of the luxury market. And I know a lot of people typically pay attention to the polishing, but you can find mirror polishing on every micro brand now. A finely beveled edge there, that is something that can be recreated. But this micro finish on this brushing is just something very, very special, and it's something that does jump out at me when you see it, just because it doesn't look the same as regular brushing. Sometimes even within the swatch group, you'll find stuff where it's not even brushed, it's like just machined and then just kind of taken, they'll take kind of the sharpness off. So to see this on a piece that's still super wearable, you think Omega, of course you think a little bit thick, but I mean this one right here, I feel like it's thick in all the right places, and it does a great job of really breaking down that silhouette so that it appears much thinner on the wrist as well, and definitely in the metal. So very, very cool. And I've been indifferent about patinaed loom in the past.
Yeah.
But I feel like if there's any brand that kind of gets it, Omega is one of them. Where it's almost like they're not even necessarily trying to do a patina look. Sometimes it's just like a good color combination. It just adds a little bit of warmth to it, where it maybe doesn't even necessarily need to try to look older, but it just looks, I guess, a little bit warmer and a little bit more, I don't know. There's just something that they capture with these different tones that isn't always like, super vintagey. It's it actually just is a good combination. It just looks good too. So very, very cool. And then here we go. This is a really sweet one. I dig that. I know these have been super popular.
Yes.
There's a Willard version also.
Yes.
I basically have the new the Slim Turtle version of this one on my wrist, so we'll get a side by side here in a little bit. But yeah, tell us about this one. This one is really, really cool.
Yeah, so the SPB 297 from Seiko Save the Ocean special editions. The 143 they really hit it out of the park with that one, and ever since the 143 they really have been making a lot of re-editions of that style. This is one of my personal favorites with the dial color and the texture and the bezel color. The blue and black, I just think that was a great combination that they did, and the dial that you get for under $1,500 and usability is just unmatched in my opinion. Just like the 143 when they came out with it. This is everybody's beach watch, their daily watch, or their one watch collection. So they just made it a little bit more interesting, which I'm really glad that they did.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this one really set it off, and the nice thing is it's just so versatile. It's one where like even if you don't like Seiko, you're probably still going to like this watch.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting because I feel like it has so much crossover potential. And you're right, the way that they're playing off of the dial and the bezel insert, you get so much texture, so much light play that you just wouldn't expect for, in a watch in this price point. At least not from Seiko. It used to be kind of like, you would the way you'd get your perfect Seiko was to invest $600 more in mods, and then you would have like a really cool watch. Here now you can just kind of get it right out of the box, and they're coming out with so many special editions, and they're really keying into I think what is really great about modern Seiko and Grand Seiko, which is their level of execution on the dials, the handsets. I mean, this is a really, really cool texture, and maybe I'm a little biased because I do have a similar dial, but yeah, this one is just really, really cool and absolutely does stand out a lot. So if you haven't got one of these watches yet, any type of 62 MAS reissue, maybe this is the one for you. Let me know down in the comments below if you were waiting for a blue dial variation. I know some people are waiting on a blue on blue. There was a limited edition one that was in Japan for a particular vendor that did do blue on blue, that those sold out so quick though.
Definitely.
And this one, I think, the color play, and you're probably going to be paying less for something like this, even though, this is really meant to be something special within that Save the Ocean, whole series. So very, very cool.
Yeah, no, they did really well.
Cool. So let's check out what's on this side of the table.
So one of the really cool ones we got over here is this vintage Heuer Carrera. It's from the 70s. It's a reference 73653. The patina on this one is definitely in amazing shape, and they just threw it in something, and they just left it, and they kept in the late somewhere in the late 60s, they had different tacky bezels that went with each Carrera.
Oh, wow.
Actually, it's one of the earlier ones had it on the 3 o'clock. Often you see it up here by the 1. So that's something like a lot of people don't know. It kind of varies So you might see this certain Carrera with the tacky up a little bit higher. The subdials have come into like a bluish gray, which is really cool. That matches really well with the accented orange chronograph hand. So this is a freshly serviced. This is aftermarket B&R strap that we put on it. Nice little wrap.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, B&R bands. Big shout out to them. They do good stuff.
Yeah, so it looks great on this one.
Yeah, I really like that dial. The nice thing is, like, I think at first glance you kind of see Panda, but then the more you look at it, you're like, oh, that's kind of like this cool, warmer, kind of almost champagne dial.
Yeah.
And I think definitely, you know, gold and hints of gold are really back in style. So you get something like this that just hits so many of those hallmarks without it being necessarily like this super, you know, Steve McQueen type of watch. So you can still find these at pretty good deals. What are you guys selling this one for?
Selling it for $4,500.
Nice.
So for freshly serviced, the value 7736 manual wind. It's Heuer signed. That's a great movement.
Yeah.
So like for that price point, it's.
What's the diameter on that one?
So it's a 38 millimeter to no case.
Nice. So yeah 38 millimeter chronograph. I mean, that's something right now that people are pining over. You know, finding ways to make these smaller and smaller within kind of the independent micro brand world. So to have something with you know, real pedigree within racing, you know, that's just has all of those great hallmarks, you know, the Panda style, but then also getting some really cool vintage patina on there, and again tapping into something that's just a little bit less sterile and less predictable by having you know, that kind of champagne hint to the dial. I think is very, very cool. Oh hey, this looks like this is a vintage Nevada Gretsch? Nice.
This is a vintage one.
This is like the one that everybody's honestly,
lots of remakes of this.
Yeah, lots of remakes, a lot of different ones, but it's nice to see it in kind of its classic form. You know, they did the thing on the website where you can kind of drag the graphic over and you see really how much the old reminisces with the new and really pays respect to it. So that one is a really, really cool one. I actually recently reviewed one, the modern ones, and I have to say that this one, it's got a lot of charm to it. I mean, as much as the modern reissue feels super solid, there's, you know, for you to try to age in patina and get this level of just kind of a story being told on the case and on the dial and the hands, it's going to take you a long time, or you'll be spending a lot of money to try to really truly recreate this look. I mean, this bezel, this is just natural wear. This isn't something where somebody you know, dipped it in bleach for a couple of months or anything like that. Like, this is really something that I think stands out as just a great kind of piece for any collection. So.
Definitely, yeah. That's powered by the Valjoux 92, which was serviced in 2021, and it's actually running minus 1 second per day currently.
Oh wow!
So it's running really great for a 38 millimeter vintage 60s watch, which some people say the 60s, 70s were the best era for sports watches coming out. The tritium just is patinaed perfectly on the hands and dial. I mean, you can't really beat an Aviator sea diver. Like
I mean, it does it all. Like, this is like the smartwatch before smartwatch. This is like a G-Shock before G-Shock, where it literally has, you know, every type of complication that you really need for an active lifestyle. To even include, they did a 12-hour, you know, timing action underneath the 60-minute counter for diving, so you could even use this as a traveling watch because you can offset the hours, you know, by the 1, 2, 3, and basically if you're gonna go fly over to Texas today, and you know that they're, you know, from California and they're 2 hours ahead, you can easily just do that, and you're not messing with anything. You're not messing up your time hack or anything like that. So very, very cool, and you know, you're still getting that nice. Trying to do it one-handed, bidirectional bezel that is friction fit. So the nice thing is you can see you're not going to accidentally turn that, which is, I think, most people's complain when they do something that's friction fit is it's too easy to kind of accidentally throw off. But here you can see, like, I'm really having to make an effort to actually turn that and it feels super smooth in hand. But you know, the nice thing is if I bang my wrist or something like that, or I give it a quick wipe, I'm not going to accidentally, offset any timing, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, super cool watch.
Oh, now to this one. I mean, Volcan, they're definitely a very important, brand from the past with history, making the watches for presidents and everything like that. But it seems like right now their ownership is really diving deep into a lot of, their catalog to just kind of show us really cool stuff that never really, I feel like a lot of the ones that they show are models that really didn't catch on and become super, super popular, but are so like true to form for that era that when you see it now, it's almost like, oh, it has this great retro aesthetic. And it's something like this, like you don't see that surfboard style. I think there's a Bulova that has a surfboard style chronograph. Like that's the only one I can think of where you might seen this before. But then on a Volcan, I mean,
from the late 60s, 70s, like that funky, super fun. It has the same movement as the Heuer Carrera, which, I mean, that tells a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, just for that, right? I think that's a really fun piece of it. You're going to be getting, one of those kind of top tier, especially from that time frame, right? What was it? I think it was Seiko, Zenith, and I think even Heuer they were all in the mix about really pushing those mechanical chronographs out around the same time that'll read analog display and everything. So I think that's really, really cool. And then, of course, you're getting that cool vintage design aesthetic from a Volcan. And again, you're not going to just see these. Even if you are a Volcan collector, you're not just going to find one of these often. So I think that's really cool. And then, of course, the brand recognition, the movement that's being used inside, there's definitely a lot to love. So this thing is cool.
Yeah, that one's in really great, near new old stock condition. It comes with the box, little hang tags back from the 60s. So it's honestly a great watch to have. To any collector, really. Any vintage collector would like this, not just a Volcan collector.
And I think the cool thing is, like, let's say if you were to buy this as a gift, we're filming this prior to Valentine's Day. I think the cool thing about a lot of these types of watches where they're not super mainstream is that you can actually kind of send that collector in your life like down a really fun rabbit hole where they're learning more about the brand. I mean, I know a lot of us kind of go through that when we're learning more about what makes Grand Seiko different than Seiko, right? Or, where Orient falls within the Epson group, or, how the Swatch group really put all these other pieces together to kind of save Swiss-made mechanical watches. It's just kind of fun to get into that side of it, the storytelling, that conversation piece, being in addition to being a really cool timepiece. So very, very cool, and definitely appreciate you pulling these out for us, just because, it's not every day you get to talk watches and just really have such a cool, funky group. Oh, and actually, if you guys are fans of the channel, you know that this bad boy right here was recently reviewed. If I can get it into focus.
Oh yeah, killer dial.
Yes, killer dial. This one is really gorgeous. This is just that subtle flex piece. I know a lot of you probably are seeing this thinking, okay, the white dial one is really that iconic one. But you know what? For the guys that have the white dial, you pull up with the green dial, they're all going to be jealous. Like that's the thing. So maybe that white dial is going to be a little bit more versatile on the daily, but if you are a green watch guy, like this could easily be your signature piece. I mean, this thing is just gorgeous
Everybody
on
needs
tons
a
of
green
levels.
dial. So.
Yeah, this thing is sweet. And that moon phase, you just that's not just a generic complication on some Miyota movement. This is something where it's really engineered, and I mean the movement itself is just next level. I mean, we definitely got some good footage of it for the review, but I'll try to capture just a little bit here so you guys can see just this thing is next level hand finishing on some of those pieces there underneath that dual it's like the swan neck regulators. That's just pretty next level stuff. So very, very cool. And then hey, look, also some people, this is watch guy stuff right here.
Yep.
Check that out. Coasters from Haviston. You guys know I'm a big fan of Haviston from the channel, so it's cool to just see this type of stuff. These are, you know, true collectors, true enthusiasts that are out here that you're connecting with. These aren't, you know, guys that are just out here to flip stuff and take advantage of the market. These guys are here to really kind of live the dream and be a part of the community that they enjoy so much. So very cool.
All right, so there you guys have it. Very, very cool stuff. Belmont watches. I know you guys have heard them be plugged by, you know, other YouTube channels too, especially located within Southern California. I know Timeless Sneakers and Watches, and then SoCal Watch Reviews. Definitely check those guys out too. It's always great to kind of support your local guys, especially when, you know, a lot of times you're searching for deals and you don't even know if stuff is actually in stock, or if it's just this weird like Google trap, which has happened to me plenty of times. I'm like looking for something and oh wow, they have this Nomos for a really affordable price, and then come to find out, oh yeah, it's like they have some weird verbiage where it's like back ordered for 8 months or something like that.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah, versus here, you're talking to guys that are here to move product, not to sit on it. And if you want to consign something like that, you can trade up. Like for me, like that's the dream world. I'm not there yet where I can let go of watches, but I need to get there. My wife every day, she's just like, all right, you need to maybe just let's get a few going. Like let's just get it moving. Like once we start, then it's just gonna flow. Like once we break down that dam. So I'm sure you guys know I'll be hitting up Belmont and their whole team just because, yeah, they're trustworthy guys, and that's one of the things I feel like, especially with e-commerce and anything online today, is like there's always that kind of pucker factor where you don't necessarily want to be the one to like get scammed.
The one to get scammed.
So it is pretty cool to, you know, be local to these guys, see their operation, see what's going on, and really kind of partake in the movement. And I'm sure you guys have seen there's a lot of guys that are making huge businesses out of, you know, the aftermarket, the gray market, and everything like that. So it's really cool to just find, you know, true enthusiasts that are out there that are scaling, and it's more so through passion versus, you know, some crazy funding where it's just like, all right, we're able to buy enough Daytonas where we can hire 10 more people. Like that's not this place. This place is going to be finding and acquiring, I think, really cool and well curated pieces, and I think that's something that is kind of missing from a lot of the vintage market today. You think about mainstream, you know, kind of purveyors of that space, like Hodinkee, right? Like now they're such a business, like you can't necessarily tell what they think is good or not because they're so much of it is just kind of paid advertisement. More power to them for building their platform. But yeah, you get something like this, more grassroots, a little bit more honest, obviously, in terms of, hey, they're acquiring things that they find interesting, and then if you find what they find interesting, I think it can be a real match. So
matches
very cool.
up well, and we always love talking watches. We're in downtown San Diego. A lot of people just come by. We just look at watches, look at the vintage stuff we got, because we get some pretty cool stuff. So, and we always love talking about that kind of stuff whenever anybody has a chance.
And sometimes I'll just keep rambling too far. Like we'll meet up like at a Starbucks to swap watches for like review stuff and sending stuff back to their shop that's been purchased. And you know, what is meant to be a really quick, fast thing, I will just keep going, and he'll take it. He'll just be there, just nodding and smiling, and he'll keep hearing me ramble on and on about how awesome some random thing I heard was. So, you know, again, the real deal. And actually, before we cut out, what I'll do is I'll get a real quick comparison, just because I do want to show you guys basically these two watches kind of side by side, because they are really, really cool. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll get like one big walk around and say our goodbyes.
Thanks, everybody.